Hello, this is Kristina Hoeppner from the Mahara project. In today's video, I'd like to show you a number of the new features that we will be having in Mahara 2404, which will be released at the end of April. We have made a preview version available for Mahara 2404 so that you can install the new version and test it out on your own infrastructure. Or you can also use it on our development site dev.mahara.org, where you can test out most features for which you do not need site administrator access. So I'm really excited to show you these new features. There will be a shorter feature release video, and I will also have sessions to introduce the new features. But in preparation for your hopefully you're going to test Mahara 2404 in our preview version, I wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the highlights of the new release to make it easier for you to test them. So this is going to be a bit of a longer video in comparison to the short feature release videos, because I am going to just step through the functionality one by one. And that then also gives you the possibility to see where things are being added, how they are being enabled and so on, before I then also add that information into the Mahara manual. So hopefully by the end of the month, the manual will be mostly complete with all of those new functionalities. Here you can see our Mahara issue and wishlist item tracker, which is available to all subscribers. And I have filtered for the milestone 2404.0, so the first release of Mahara 2404, and the label enhancement. Importantly here is that you either choose the tab closed or all, because how our workflow works, all the things that are now going to be in Mahara 2404, these issues have been closed. You can still report any bugs for them, if there were any, by clicking the new issue icon and then filling in the information with as much information as possible so that we can replicate the issues. I'm not going to show you all 38 new features that we have implemented, but have a select few, and I already showed you a couple of features via videos, so I will make sure to link those so that you can take a look at those on your own time. And so today I'm going to focus on some of the administrative features and also new portfolio features that are available. So let's get started. So often when you have a Mahara site, your students or staff might be doing something on the site and then they come across the error message, Mahara site unavailable, a non-recoverable error occurred. This probably means you encountered a bug in the system. This is in a way a placeholder error message to prevent that we display too much information potentially publicly, therefore potentially exposing a security vulnerability. So this is not an actual error message that you need to report to us, because we would always come back to you and ask for more details, because this one only says that there is a bug. So what we have implemented, and that is also part of one of our roadmap items, is that your students and staff can now send you that bug report and you can engage with them to ask them for more information. In order to do so, as administrator, what you would do is set your notifications to receive issue reports. So at least one site administrator needs to have that set in order to receive issue reports. We have not made that a general setting for all site administrators, because you might want to only have one person who receives the reports and deals with them, to make it easier to know who has actually been looking after them, rather than just have them sent to everybody, because again, potentially sensitive information might be disclosed in those error messages. Now, what you can also do, especially if you have a multi-tenanted site and you want to give the institution administrators the first pass through, then you can also allow institution administrators to see issue reports. In order to do that, you go to the site options and site settings, and then institution administrators receive issue reports, set this option to yes. And then similarly to what I've done for the site administrator, they can go to their settings, into the notification settings, and decide how they would like to receive those issue reports, either via email, email digest, or in the inbox. Per default, it is always set to none. So now, if that student were to encounter this bug again, they now don't just see the error message or the placeholder error message that there's a problem, but they can report that problem to you. They do not, in this case, at this stage, see the details of the error message. They are only revealed to you. So now they can type what they had been doing in order to come to this error and send this off to an administrator. Now, if I go into my notifications, I can see that Paula has sent me an issue report. Steps taken before encountering the issue, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then where the error occurred. And so now I, as administrator, can see the problem line and also the call stack. So all that information that a developer might need in order to resolve the problem. If Paula had not provided enough information, I could go back to her reply and ask for more information on it, so that I have a better idea of how to replicate this problem. Now, since we are in the preview version testing time of Mahara, it would actually be really useful if you installed Mahara on a testing environment and did not have to wait until somebody sends you such an error message, but could see error messages directly on screen. In order to do that, what you can do in your config.php file is to include this line that says that production mode is false. And by putting that into your config.php and saving that file, when I refresh this page, I now have this site is not in production mode displayed at the top. Some data may be out of date. And so if I now go in as my student and view that exact same error, I now do see it directly here on my screen, and that makes it easy to copy and paste as well. But this should really only be used when you're testing and not have that setting turned on in production mode, so that you don't see all of those extra messages, info messages, and also error messages. However, for testing, it is pretty good to have available. Another administrative feature that might be of interest to you is now that we do have the subscriptions, that you can see how many people have been active on your site over the past year. And there are two ways of seeing that. The first one is directly on the interface, that you go into the report section. And then on the left-hand side, where you have the overview, you see the number of active account holders today, in the last week, and we included in the past year. So that is always for the last 365 days. And then how many were active altogether. And so active means that they will have logged in at least once. In this case, there is no differentiation whether they've just been browsing around or whether they've actually created some content or uploaded some files. Now, if you want to have a more direct view of what they have been doing on the site and whether they created some content, you can use a command line interface script for that. And so that script, and I've put the line that would need to be used, of course, into the Mahara manual. And that script is in the normal CLI folder, and you can there you can decide on the interval, so whether it is 1 year, half a year, 2 years, 5 years. Therefore, also getting a good overview if there are any older accounts that you might want to remove. For example, if you automatically created accounts and people really haven't been using your site. Now, if I run this file now, then I can see that on this site, even though I have altogether 8 accounts at the moment, that only 2 have been active in the past year, and that is because it's a new testing site with old data. I can see their username, the last login, and this script really only shows me people who have logged in during that specified interval. And it also shows me whether they only have default pages, whether they created any new artifacts in that time interval, whether they created any new portfolios, whether they joined groups, and also what their quota is. So here, looking at Paula, she doesn't just have default pages, and default pages are your dashboard and your profile page. And similarly, also Anna doesn't have any has more than those 2 pages. But only Paula created new artifacts in the interval. Anna hasn't done that. And also only Paula created new portfolios during that time interval. Anna has only logged in and looked around, and as you saw earlier, changed some settings on the site. They both have joined groups though, and Paula has a much higher quota used than Anna. The quota here is displayed in bytes as a most universal display, so that you can also perform calculations if needed. So that is how you can also very quickly see how active some people have been for very rudimentary information. If you needed to check, for example, how many people you have that logged in from Moodle but haven't really done anything on the site, if you wanted to have a report like that. Now let's go to more portfolio features away from the administrative side. Many organizations in the past have been using the Continuing Professional Development plugin, CPD, and that's why we've decided to, and thanks also to funding through one of our clients here in New Zealand, that's why we've decided to move that directly into Mahara, because it is a very useful plugin. If you have an upgraded site, you will need to activate that plugin specifically. It is not automatically installed. In order to do that, you can go to the administration menu, extensions, plugin administration, and then scroll down until you see the CPD plugin. Make that available first the artifact, and then also the block type. Now that these have been activated, they are available and accessible to everybody on the site through the main menu. So in the CPD activities, you set up activities as pretty much as a running list. So click the new activity button, and then you can give your activity a title. You can give it a location, a start date that you select, and you can also give it an end date. And there can also be a description. Now the start date is very important, and that's also why it is a required field. But the other factor that you do want to consider here is really working with tags, because what the CPD block allows you to do is to limit the display of the activities based either on a date or a tag or tags and or a combination of all of them. So say something like CPD 2024, and then you would give it some hours, and that is always in decimals. And once you've entered a bunch of those activities, you will see what that display looks like. I can leave the description free, but I can start my CPD. And here you see that the hours are automatically counted for you and totaled. Now I'm ready to put that block onto a page. So I go to my portfolios and let me create a new page for that. I can pull the block over, find the CPD, and now I have the possibility to filter by tags. So I choose the CPD 2024 one, for example, and I can also decide on the date range that I want to display, or I can leave that empty. So here for the dates from and to are both start dates that are being displayed, so that we always go by the start of the activities in case somebody, for example, has CPD that are longer than just a day or a week, and they need to document all the CPDs of a year that they have started within their particular recertification year, for example. Now that I have that, I can save that. And as you can see, I have a whole lot of buttons here so that I can immediately update my CPD activity from this screen without needing to go back into the main menu. I can also delete the activities, or I can add more activities again directly from my portfolio screen, making it really comfortable to do that. The other improvement that we've made compared to the plugin is that when you have the details mode turned on, like I have here, and you are in the view mode of the page, you can also quickly update your CPD without needing to go into edit mode and potentially moving blocks around or deleting things and such, so that there's less room for error. So you can add an activity, you can update an activity, delete an activity, or also select whether you want to add some more tags or a particular time frame. So this CPD activity is now very versatile and can be used without needing the old plugin. And we've also updated it so that it does take newer functionality of Mahara in account, namely that inline editing. Now, when we were here in edit mode, you would have already seen when I added a block onto this page that recent content types were displayed. This is the case because that is also a new functionality where you can see which content types you have used recently, either on that page or across also your portfolio entirely, making it very quick to select your most used content items based on your own usage, because an administrator can always decide on the general order of the blocks. So that is happening in the plugin administration. When you go to block type, plugin type block type, click that icon, then you decide in which order these content types should be displayed. However, that might not be the content types that you're using predominantly. Therefore, those recent content types make it very easy for you to use your most used items. In Mahara 20 304, we introduced the functionality that when you make a submission, you're not actually submitting the portfolio, but a copy of a portfolio. And so it also necessitated that we manage that a bit better. And so when you are on your portfolio's overview page, you see the option to show submitted portfolios. So if you work quite extensively with portfolios for assessment or might make several submissions, not showing all of these submitted portfolios will be good so that you don't accidentally try to edit one of those copies or wonder why you can't edit them. However, in some cases, it might be good for you to always show those submitted portfolios. So you could already in the past click the checkbox and then click search, and then all your submitted portfolios would be displayed. However, what is different now is that this option is sticky. So when you go back to your portfolio's overview page, it is still ticked so that you don't always have to tick that option. So that is now there until you untick it again, and then your submitted portfolios won't be visible. A feature that needs to be activated in the config PHP file, because it currently is an experimental feature, is that you can allow the copying of blocks on an existing page. So that is a config setting, set that to true. And once you have done that and you open a page and go into edit mode, you will see a copy button so that you could very quickly make copies of that same block. That could be used especially when you want to create templates and only make minor changes in the content of the blocks that you create. It is an experimental setting at the moment because we do want to find out more if that were a feature that people would like to use a lot, and also gather more info about whether it is only for template creation or whether students or staff creating portfolios would also want to use that functionality in order to help us decide what the final implementation of this could look like. Artificial intelligence remains a hot topic that is widely discussed and also comes into the portfolio space more and more for various reasons. So we want to explore the possibilities of how artificial intelligence can help in the portfolio creation, evaluation, and maintenance process. There are a number of projects run in Germany that we are following very closely and will also catch up with them over the coming month and share more of what they are doing within the community. One very quick win, though, was that we have been looking at Riff, which is a reflection bot that allows you to have that allows a teacher to create a prompt, give some context, and then students can answer that prompt. And so what we have done is made it simple for teachers to embed such a bot into a portfolio page. At the moment, it is the embedding of that bot so that you can add that into a template, for example, making it very easy for students to always come back and start their reflection. There is no integration in regards to us or your Mahara side immediately saving the data that is being displayed via Riff or saving the summary that comes through the bot. That is all separate. It is at the moment an iframe to make it easy to start interacting with the software. The service is also an external service, so please do review the terms and conditions and the privacy statement in order to know whether that is something that you would like to explore. Riff is created by Dr. Leticia Pretos Caballero at Stanford University. She works at the D School and is a researcher in reflective practice. Therefore, having lots and lots of experience around reflection and reflection prompts and reflection practice, which have all flown into the creation of this reflection bot. Now, if you do want to give it a go, join the waitlist and you will gain access to Riff so that you can set up your own reflection bot. The URL that is given to you is a very short one. And so in order to add it into a Mahara page, you do need to go to the web page so that a longer URL with an actual token comes out rather than just a short URL. And then you can grab that token and add it into the external media block as URL. You don't need any embed code, just that URL, because it's not actual iframe code that is given to you by the bot. And when you view it, you have the bot directly available and can start interacting with it. So any data that is input here is not saved in Mahara directly, but can be sent, or the bot can send the data through, or the bot can write a summary that is then sent to an email. So anybody using it needs to be aware that they should follow those settings, because all we provide is that iframe here. But I definitely love to hear if any one of you is using it, is experimenting with it, what functionality might be missing for those who want to use a reflection bot like Riff in their portfolio practice from within a portfolio. One last feature that I want to share with you is an accessibility feature. And that is a feature that turns Mahara pages into dark pages because we implemented a dark mode. Now, the dark mode is an experimental feature because there's a lot of changes that need to be made. Even though Bootstrap now supports it, they are also still in the beginning stages of supporting it. And so we've only enabled it on the raw theme and on the default theme for the time being. In order to go into dark mode, if you typically already use dark mode, you don't actually have to do anything in your browser because Mahara picks up the browser setting. Since I typically don't use dark mode, I go into my settings for my browser, and under website appearance in Firefox, I select dark. And by having done that, automatically my Mahara site switches into dark mode, so that everything that used to be white is now black, and all the menus are changed and I can navigate in dark mode. So if that is your preferred way of viewing websites, you now have that option if you're using the site in the raw or the default themes to see that. Again, we would very much like to have feedback from you. Also, if there are certain things that are not quite working, because of course, there are lots of elements that needed to be defined and redefined to work in dark mode, so that we are now often doubling up on some of the variables, so that we have one for light mode and one for dark mode. If there's not the possibility to handle that with one variable. So please do get in touch, file an issue if you come across certain things that affect this dark mode. Or even if you're continuing to use the site in light mode, in the regular mode, and suddenly you feel like, oh, this used to look different than before, then it could very well be that a change was introduced due to dark mode, and therefore send us through an issue and we will look into fixing it. So now that we've seen a number of the, small number actually, of the new features, and I have not shown you another two big ones because I had already done videos on them. So Smart Evidence version 2 has its own video where it is now possible to have multiple people as assessors and also self-assessment. and where you also have a 5th assessment status. That already has its own video, so please take a look at that. And also the recycle bin already has its own video, so you can take a look at those separately. There are a number of other features that are more technically oriented that I'm not showing you here, but if you're interested in them, please do check them out from our list of new features and give them a go. And if you have any questions, please be in touch. So the plan now is for the rest of the month that we are doing release testing, testing the preview version, and we'd very much like to invite you to do the same, because of course your data is different from the data that we have. Therefore, you might run into issues or interesting bits and pieces that we might not see during our testing. You would also be on a different hosting environment and might be using different versions from what we are using. So please give it a good test. Mahara 2404 supports PHP 8.1 and it also requires PHP 8. We are also testing the site with PHP 8.2. And if your server infrastructure is on PHP 8.2, please give it a whirl there and let us know of any issues. We haven't seen any very obvious breaking issues at this stage, and therefore are hopeful that we can make a good assessment about the compatibility with PHP 8.2 once it comes to the release date. Right now, we are looking into releasing latest on the 26th of April, and therefore would appreciate if you send us any reports through of issues that you might encounter by the end of the previous week, which would be April 19th or even Monday, April the 22nd, so that we can decide whether these are things that we can still fix for the release or whether they would need to come out in a minor point release after the official first 0.0 release. If you don't have a test site for yourself or for your site or can't upgrade a test site at this stage, you can use our developer environment dev.mahara.org. For which you can register, create an account, and test all the non-administrative features. As you can see, it is enabled for dark mode if you want to use it in that, or if you're not typically a dark mode person, then you would see it also regularly in light mode and can then help with the testing. And so we look forward to receiving your feedback. Thank you.